That was beautiful. Thank you to Abby and Teresa and the choir for the gift of your music to our worship service today. Well, I find myself in an interesting position these days, one that many of you may have experienced. I am one of the oldest staff members at the Community Health Center where I work, and I will be retiring this Friday. I've been there for 17 years, and I'm the only human resources officer they've ever had, because prior to my time, they did not have funding for such a dedicated HR staff person. We have hired a lovely new HR officer from Tunisia who started in July, so we had a couple of months together, and now she will take on the position and make it hers. I have passed on everything I can think of that she needs to know, but there are some things that will not continue after I leave. For example, as you may know, I like to write poetry, and it has been my custom to write a poem or a song for each special occasion. It's not in the job description, and certainly not necessary for the role, but it was fun for me, and others seem to appreciate it too. The new person will no doubt bring her own gifts to the role too, and I am happy to be passing on the mantle. For many years, I have heard the expression, "take up the mantle," but I never really read this passage closely before to find out where it originates from. Elisha was an apprentice of sorts with the prophet Elijah. Elijah had successfully confronted the corrupt and evil King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, and was well regarded by those in the school of prophets. They both knew that Elijah was reaching his retirement age, and Elisha wanted to learn all he could from Elijah so that he could be just as holy and well respected. When Elijah's retirement day comes, there appears a chariot of fire and horses of fire to separate the two, which is where the spiritual swing low, sweet chariot comes from. Elijah does not die, but is sent up to heaven in a whirlwind. All that remains is Elijah's torn cloak, which he had used to part the waters of the River Jordan. Elisha picks it up, strikes the water with it, and lo and behold, the waters divide again, a sign that he has inherited Elijah's spirit. The word mantle has multiple meanings. It can either be a loose, sleeveless cloak or shawl, or an important role or responsibility that passes from one person to another. In this case, it had a double meaning. Elisha had said he wanted a double share of Elijah's spirit. In this passage, he receives the mantle both literally and figuratively. A double share was the portion of the inheritance normally given to the firstborn and heir. Elisha desires this affirmation of leadership so that he can carry on Elijah's work. Elisha picks up Elijah's mantle and continues his prophetic ministry. He goes on to serve as a prophet in the northern kingdom of Israel for about 50 years, working at the national level as well as in the lives of individuals, seeking always to bring people back to honoring God's reign. Elisha's request was audacious, but sometimes you need to go out on a limb, imagine big things, and trust in divine power to help you overcome life's challenges. What if we started each day by asking God, What great thing will you do in my life today? And what great thing will I do today? Then we would be on the lookout for ways that we have been blessed or been a blessing to others, and be grateful for being agents of God's love. Just as Elisha picked up Elijah's mantle, as Christians, we are called to pick up the mantle of discipleship. We are asked to take up the ministry of God's love and justice and move forward, many times reframing or redefining what it means to do ministry in today's world. We do not only take up mantles in our professional lives. Often the things we do that are the most meaningful to us are outside of our paid employment. One of our ministers who retired in 2020 had offered a weekly faith study in the evenings that was very helpful and meaningful to me. I felt called to pick up her mantle and continue that faith study over Zoom throughout the pandemic. And it was a wonderful way for a group of Emmanuel friends to meet, connect, and discuss God's message for our lives today. When the pandemic forced me to work from home and I no longer saw my work colleagues on a daily basis, it was the faith study and leading worship that grounded me and gave my life meaning. The mantles we wear may be temporary and will change throughout our lives. Often, they will give purpose to our lives because they are something we have chosen to do rather than something we have to do for paid employment. Maybe your teacher who is called to a ministry of music, an engineer who is called to work in the church garden, or a software developer who is called to advocate for environmental stewardship. In her book, An Altar in the World, the author and Episcopal priest, Barbara Brown Taylor, talks about a group of clergy she met with on a monthly basis in the small town where she lived several years ago. They discussed the demands of the jobs, encouraged one another, and shared wisdom about how to keep their sense of vocation alive. Taylor says she felt most deeply for her Baptist colleague, whose role required him to preach 3 different sermons each week while keeping up with all the other demands of his congregation. If he stayed home for a morning to work on the sermons, people complained that he was not available. If he came into the office, he was constantly interrupted. What saved him, she said, was the clown outfit hanging in his closet. On his days off, he would put it on and go out in the community to make people laugh at children's hospitals, nursing homes, and charity benefits. The Methodist minister was a volunteer fireman. The Catholic priest taught Italian at a local community college, and Taylor herself wrote books. She explains, all of us were committed to parish ministry, which was our main vocation. But what allowed us to keep answering the call to do it was knowing there was something else we could do too. It is important to find your passion and pursue it, because that will enable you to live life with purpose. Today, there is a passing of the mantle at Emmanuel. We are excited to be welcoming Reverend Grant Stuckless as our new Minister of Worship and Pastoral Care. We may have expectations that he will bring all the qualities that we appreciated in each of our former ministers. I know that ministerial candidates have noted that congregations want them to be good preachers, patient and compassionate pastoral care providers have the ability to attract young families, bake pies, and raise money. Oh, and also walk on water. Maybe we have set the bar a little high. Maybe what we are looking for is a servant leader, one who shows empathy, fosters a community of love and acceptance, sets aside the power and status to serve the needs of others, and focuses on the spiritual growth and nourishment of the people in the congregation. Reverend Grant has accepted the mantle that has been passed on to him, and we will be blessed by the gifts that he brings. And I also know, as Keith mentioned, that Reverend Grant will enjoy following his passions outside of Emmanuel, singing in a community choir and cheering on the senators. Work-life balance is very important. So what mantles do you wear? Is there a mantle calling you to pick it up? Maybe now is the time to try it on. If you are an elder, maybe you can pass on your wisdom to a young person. Whether it is cooking, gardening, woodworking, or knitting, there may be a youth in your community who would benefit from spending time with you. What mantles do you recognize are worn by those around you? Have you told them lately what a gift they are and how grateful you are that they are carrying that mantle? Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." If you are not currently wearing a mantle that fuels your passion, maybe you should pray on it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Let us pause for a few moments of silent reflection, followed by a short prayer. God of all creation, be our strength and hope. Give us courage to pick up the mantle of discipleship. Embolden us to speak truth, confront injustice, and work to bring about your reign on earth. Amen.